All right, folks, I'm about to give you the keys to the kingdom. Without further ado, here is what goes into my master bus in Reason 9, as I'm using it right now. So, I'm going to say this. I don't use all of these on every track, but this is where I start off, and I'll bypass them, or I will, turn them dry, wet, delete them even, or add new ones. But these are things that I found to be generally useful on most songs. So some people believe in top-down mastering, some don't. I sort of do. You can see some videos that Graham Cochran and Rob Mazies have done on them. They're really helpful. And so that's why I sort of do this. And I also don't always master in Reason. Sometimes I export to Ozone, and we'll actually do the mastering and the EQ, the saturation, that sort of thing there. But when I operate completely in Reason, then this is what I use. So, drum roll, please. Yeah, that was amazing, wasn't it? Okay, so starting off, we've got the sends on the master section going to a Spider audio splitter. I'm going to disconnect everything for a second just so this is really clear. And I've hit K so that not all of the cables are in your face, but only the relevant ones, and the other ones are grayed out. Useful tip if you don't know it. K makes it clearer, easier to focus. So master section sends to a Spider. This splits it into identical copies. One of these copies is going into this stereo imager, which, as I described in my previous video on templates, is being used to control the compressor that is on the main mixer here. It's keying to it, which basically means that only sounds, because I've soloed the high band, only sounds over 114 hertz are going out of the stereo imager and into the key on the side chain, which will give you less pumping. Now you've got to be sure to do this from the master section insert effects in, as opposed to the control room out, because the insert effects come before the compressor, but the control room out is after the compressor. And yeah, there's a button that can control whether the inserts are pre or post. You're going to want to have that on. Otherwise, you're sort of compressing. The key to the signal is also being compressed, and that makes it just really weird. So then you're going to need to use the Spider, because I also send the main insert into the equalizer here and then into the rest of the signal chain. So that's why the Spider's there, to split things up. Then I've got an equalizer, and I don't use this for sweetening. I'll use this to cut a little bit of the low out sometimes not, and then maybe to do some notch filtering of some really high, harsh frequencies. Not high, but harsh frequencies, and maybe just cut those down a dB or two. Very narrow gain. Then sometimes I'll add a bit of saturation, maybe not. If it's more of a modern electronic or hip-hop sound, I might use Blamsoft's resampler, which is just an incredible tool for sort of getting that crunchiness. Sometimes I might also throw an Audiomatic on here, although I feel like that can be a little heavy-handed, and that sometimes I prefer to use it more as a send effect or on individual tracks as opposed to the whole song. So then moving on, I use 4Dyne's multiband compressor sometimes. If there's certain areas of the song, certain frequencies of the song that have occasional problems, but that aren't overall sticking out. After that, I just usually have like maybe just the slightest bit, like half a dB of another compressor, the RE2A by Cakewalk, which is just amazing. And it just, you gain it up a little bit, but it's really just to keep a little bit more of the fatness in the song. Then I will sometimes use the Trident, But honestly, more and more, I've been moving away from this. I've started learning that it's not really precise enough. I've started feeling that it's not really precise enough for mix bus level changes, because sort of even if you have a knob in a static position, the interplay between these switches and knobs is sort of unpredictable. And so it's not the sort of thing that you necessarily want to do to your entire mix bus. But then I absolutely always keep the RA3Q on. You can read my review about it and why I think it's great, but especially for the air band, just to open things up a bit. And sometimes I'll experiment with these frequencies, but usually not. So that's what's inside the master section. But then there's two more things that I do. One, I go from the output, the master out of the, and actually this is backwards for some reason, from the master out of the master section into a maximizer like Ozone. And this is where you get the volume, the real volume gain. And you also can do your dithering if you'd like. And if you do check this dither box, then when you export your song, be sure that you don't have dither enabled. And finally, at the very end of my chain, and these are both going into the audio I/O section, is Selig's Gain plugin, which has some good monitoring, volume monitoring tools. It allows me to quickly jump into mono if I need to, and you should always do a lot of your mixing in mono. So this just has that switch there. I've got one on my audio box as well, but my digital audio converter, but sometimes it's just easier to grab. And then also it allows you to easily sort of have these width knobs here on your master bus if you want to automate them. And it's just helpful. I don't know, I found it to be very helpful to have at times. So I keep it on there as well. And so that's that. That's how I bring the magic. If you enjoyed this at all, or if you have a different setup that you found that works, please leave a comment, because this is what I'm using right now, but every 2 months or so, a new plugin comes into the mixing, the mastering section, and a new plugin comes out. So if you've got anything that you really love, please let me know.